Central Kentucky City is really growing right now, and with industrial careers taking off, the City of Berea is welcoming more into their community.
Yeah, Hitachi Automotive America is expanding in the city with a $153 million investment. The mayor of Berea sat down with WKYT's Julia Sandor and talks more about the economic impact they're seeing.
It's where the mountains meet the bluegrass.
I think part of the natural beauty, but also the people. I think Berea is very, the level of hospitality is very high.
Mayor Bruce Fraley is from Berea. Through the years, he's learned a lot about its diverse economy.
It's a great place to make a living. We have a lot of people that actually don't live in Berea that commute into Berea to work in our industrial park, Berea College, and even some small business people. So we have a very strong local economy.
Their most recent addition, 167 new jobs at their Hitachi Automotive plant.
They're a supplier for the automotive market, and they have a very long history here. They are actually our largest employer with right at 1,000 people. And with the new employees, 167 new jobs, they will be by far our largest employer and will go over 1,100 employees.
Mayor Fraley says Berea is becoming more and more business friendly.
With young people when they're in school, is they think that they have to go away to make a good living, and that's really not true. You know, here we have engineering jobs that start out at a very high salary, industrial maintenance jobs that start out as very high salary, and even our entry level now are increasing rapidly.
He says these developments involve the state, county, and city. As the industries grow, he says their town does too.
To know that Hitachi is going to grow here when they could have grown anywhere is a very exciting time for everybody.
In Berea, Julia Sandor, WKYT.
Mayor Fraley says this is the cutting edge of technology. He says this industry growth will help the expansion of EV-related automotive jobs.